Introduce our next guest up onto the stage. Thank you very much, folks. It's my great pleasure now to welcome to the stage our first speaker for this afternoon. Of course, we're doing a deep dive on the Hemi project, which De Grey Mining is delivering. So we're going to start with a bit of a background overview from the chairman, Simon Lill, and then some key members of the team are going to come up and join me on stage to get into some of the nitty-gritty within the company as they move forward. Before we get Simon up on stage, though, just a reminder about the Slido portal, which we'll be using. Time permitting, we'll have an opportunity for some questions at the end. It's pretty simple, slido.com, and then the code you need is 24DGM, or you can just point your phone at that QR code and it'll take you straight there. If you do have a question for a particular panellist, then please make that clear as you enter your question into Slido. So to start today's conversation, it's my pleasure to invite Simon Lill up to the stage. Simon joined the board of De Grey back in October of 2013, then became the executive chairman in 2014, a role he held until May of 2020, when he relinquished the executive aspects of his chairmanship. He remains as a non-executive chairman of De Grey. Through this time, he's shared responsibility for maintaining and increasing the tenement package that forms the basis of the De Grey projects, most specifically the Hemi project, and reflects that he's been fortunate to be part of the team that discovered the Hemi project. His previous large project experience has been with Anaconda Nickel through engineering studies, financing and construction phases of the Murrin nickel mine. He also has extensive experience dating back to the 80s with ASX listed companies, spanning small cap companies through to much larger ones involving restructuring, corporate compliance, marketing, company secretarial and management activities, resulting in his role at De Grey Mining. So would you please welcome Simon Lill. And Simon, welcome to the WA Mining Club. All yours.
So yes, obviously the perfect person to be chairman of a $3 billion gold company after that bio. Look, I reflect less than 4 years ago, I was very fortunate to get up at the Diggers and Dealers that was held later that year in October as pandemic year 2020 and receive, on behalf of the company, the Best Emerging Company Award. And at the time I said, what an industry this is, that a mug like me can get up in charge of a $2 billion company after a 6-month period from discovery, and what a great industry it is that we're in. So any of you that want to have a quiet drink to the mining industry while I'm talking and have your own little congratulations to them, feel free to do so. But of course, okay, here we go. We can't have an official toast to it because you haven't read your disclaimers yet. So I will leave you to look through those at your leisure. Is that the second disclaimer? Okay. There we go. And we get to the acknowledgement of country. And at De Grey Mining, we do acknowledge, and I will need to read this, I know the names of our traditional owners on our tenement areas, but we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which we are meeting today, which is the Whadjuk Noongar people, whilst we also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which we operate the Hemi and De Grey project, notably the Gariyara, Nyalama, Nyamal, Nyala, Malana, and again the Whadjuk Noongar peoples. We recognise their unique cultural heritage, beliefs and connection to these lands, waters and communities, and we pay our respects to all members of these Indigenous communities and to elders past, present and emerging. We also recognise the importance of continued protection and preservation of cultural, spiritual and educational practices. As we value treating all people with respect, we are committed to building successful and mutually beneficial relationships with the traditional custodians throughout our areas of operations. I would like to perhaps give specific thanks to the Gariyara people. Our project is completely on Gariyara country. We have signed an agreement with them and we do look forward to having a meaningful and positive relationship with them over the next, whatever the length of time our project is, but certainly let's say the next 20 years. So the Pilbara as a new gold province, there's a slide that we show some of the history of gold discoveries in Australia. I know when certain people got involved, the Pilbara Craton is the same age as the Yilgarn Craton, same rocks, same structures. Why hasn't there been more gold found? And that remains a question actually, because yes, we've had a magnificent discovery at Hemi. We would love to see some other people having discoveries around us, drilling, etc. And at the moment there's Hemi, and we've got a smattering of regional gold projects, and we expect to find more as well. But we would love some other big discoveries to happen in the Pilbara to actually put it back on the spotlight. So we have a 150 kilometre long provincial scale tenement package, which we flew over the other day. Very high confidence. There's a lot of stuff that perhaps I think Glenn Jardine will be on the Q&A later, and he can cover a lot of the metrics of where we are. But we will show how we've built that package together. We were onto something, and we, at the time, the exploration sector was struggling, and we went about trying to put as much land together as we can in the area. So we've done a pretty good job at that. So the DFS we released last September before we did our annual capital raise in October. You can see the numbers there, 550,000 ounces per annum for the first 5 years. That'll comfortably put us in the top 5 gold producers in Australia, if not higher. And I think, again, our Managing Director will give you some guidance as to why we believe we can get that number much higher, both with the ore that we have, but with some of the programs that we have on. But there we are, we're looking to mine 122 million tonnes at 1.5 grams per tonne over a 12-year life at 10 million tonnes per annum. But we'd expect the 10 million tonnes per annum to be a higher number as well. And it's entirely, that DFS is entirely sourced from Hemi deposits. It doesn't include 2.2 million ounces in regional deposits, which will also be growing, which we've told the market that we have studies underway at the moment, in which we expect to say something sometime perhaps later this month. Okay, so a little bit of history here. I don't know exactly how this works, and I will thank Rob Humphreys, who helped me with this a little bit. But we find gold in Australia down in Ballarat and Bendigo, very rich gold fields back in 1851. We moved north, Bathurst, Gympie, through Queensland. If you look at those dates, I don't really know how it works, but it sort of follows the east coast through the Northern Territory to Halls Creek, Fitzroy Crossing in 1885. And then we get to Mallina and Taurana in 1888. Those were some of the original gold mines in Western Australia. Both of them remain on our project. Taurana's got a resource of circa 560,000 ounces after we've drilled it. And it does become a very important part of our story moving forward, actually, as one of the first intrusion-hosted mineralisation systems that we have come across. And then, of course, in 1892, 1893, you find Coolgardie and Kalgoorlie, and exploration at the Pilbara almost stops. I think Kalgoorlie was a much more pleasant place to operate in, so they went further south than the Pilbara, and there wasn't a lot of work done. You know, the Mallina and Taurana reportedly produced 5,000 ounces in a year, so that's going to be each. That's going to be reasonably high-grade stuff. We have drilled at Taurana. We haven't been able to get back to the original Mallina mine site, which we hope to in the nearest future. We're waiting for approval from the Mallina station owners. Clearly, they didn't head west from Ballarat Bendigo. There's not a lot of gold in South Australia either, so I don't really know how that works, but it's sort of timeline-wise, it looks interesting. Now, the rock, and if you go to the Post restaurant, you will see that quote on the wall at Post. So a chap called Jimmy Withnell, we have the Withnell project, so it's a family that's been in the area for a while. He reportedly threw a rock at a crow, and the rock broke, and it was containing gold, and it was reported back to the treasurer. And the treasurer came back with those words, as you can see, "What became of the crow?" So that was one of the initial discoveries in Western Australia at Mallina. So all right, so we have Louis on the left, who's been one of our longer serving employees. This was an interesting article. The dates of these things are quite interesting. So Robin Bromby, who's dry blower, wrote those words that you can see there. For some reason or other, he chose us, the long and winding road. I think it was a respectful piece, actually, saying these guys, at least they're still here, they're still trying, and it is something we take great pride in, that we are still here and we are still de grey. But I do like the last sentence there. A chart shows it as containing 1.4 million ounces over 200 kilometres and growing, comparing the Pilbara's potential to Kirkland Lake in Canada, Ashanti in Ghana and Kalgoorlie. Well, we'll see. And you know, it's an ambitious comment and we're probably not even there yet, but we've gone a little bit of the way there. That's 9th of May 2019, which I think is an important date in the context of some of the timelines that we're just going to go through. So the discovery journey, so a couple of, so yeah, look, the Windjana deposit, which is still one of our deposits, we haven't drilled it for some time. I think it's 350,000 ounces or thereabouts, was the initial discovery. And then they entered into a platinum joint venture with Impala. We go exploring in Argentina, which was a terrific technical success, I'm told. On the way through, we're trading iron ore projects. We acquire a gold project in New Zealand, which actually kept us alive because we sold that to Evolution and got $400,000 or $500,000 from them at a time where we needed $400,000 or $500,000. We were going to acquire a South African diamond project, which thank God we did not. And then we get the conglomerate gold discovery in the Pilbara. And then we not identify is the word, multiple intrusion hosted deposits. And I think we talk about more about that. And then we have the discovery. You can see the chart. I would have thought the line probably should be a little bit early, but it was early 2020 that we have the discovery. And the chart obviously takes off, and it is following the Lassonde curve, unfortunately, almost perfectly at the moment. So overnight success, 20 years in the making. Now a couple of well-known West Australian identities, Ron Manners and Dennis O'Mara, top left. They listed the company in 2002 with $4.5 million and started drilling. They weren't the only two, but they're probably the two main identities. Discover Windjana. We acquire Indy later on. So Indy was mining it for gold in 2007. That's the property to our southwest. Now, this is a good one. Simon Lill joins the company, and you can see the immediate market reaction on the share price. And my mate Craig Nelms, we sort of got involved together at that time. Conglomerate gold discovery, there's some of the nuggets that we had. Really interesting story at the time. I remember listening to Eric Sprott, the famous gold investor, and he was describing that there is a lake of gold underneath the Pilbara. It was quite an ambitious call. I think Novo Resources were the ones leading the charge. I think the concept is correct. There is a lot of these conglomerate nuggets under the Mount Roe basalts. When you find Mount Roe basalt, you're probably going to find some conglomerate nuggets. But are they mineable? You can't get a resource. What will happen with them into the future? So the concept, the theory was probably correct. Are they mineable though? Anyway, it did a good thing for our share price. We went from 5 to 15, got $5 million from Kirkland Lake, which sent us to 35. So it was a good bit of fun. We were at the grand final at the time. Andy Beckwith and myself, the Adelaide Crows, lost. So he wasn't terribly happy. But DGO Invest, middle 2018. The story there is that we were going to do a placement at 15 cents. Share price has come off. They offered to do a placement at 20 cents. They were that keen to get into this investment. And I do give them a lot of credit for their recognising what we potentially had. So now Ed Esches is obviously a well-known geologist. He's a Victorian geologist, but he's well-known in Western Australia. Responsible, at least he says he was, for the discovery of Jundee and Bronzewing. And he's been involved in the West Australian golds for a long time. And both Jundee and Bronzewing are still operating now, so they didn't have a 30-year mine life when he discovered them. And I think that says something. We have promoted a 13-year mine life as per our DFS, but we do expect, as do most geologists, that the project will be ongoing. But look, if you look at when they join the board, it's a better metric to when I joined the board. They do get an immediate reaction. They can probably lay claim for our success. But and I think I do take my hat off to them. They probably pushed us to be a bit more aggressive with the drilling. But I will say, though, that our team, the dream team of Andy Beckwith and Phil Tornatora and Alan Neeshaw, were well on to the intrusions already, and we were just waiting approval from the mines department before we could actually go and drill them. So also important at around this time, before Ed and Bruce joined the board, we had $100,000 in the bank on July 1 of 2019. July 1 of 2024, I think we're going to have over 900 million. So it has been a pretty interesting 5 years for us. Okay, so DGO then sell their interest to Gold Road. I take my hat off to Gold Road. They've actually been interested in us for some time and have discussed things with us in the very early stages. After our first set of announcements, we saw North American institutions buying shares in us. We also saw people like Gold Road had come in, and they recognised very early that we had something a bit special, and we'll see why that is. So we're on to a strategic asset, we're on a belt, and we've gradually had to fill it in. This was the tenement area when I first got involved. There's a gap between the stuff on the southeast tended to be considered the gold projects. The stuff to the northwest was considered the base metals projects. We added some ground from Hyatt, which was always a challenge with Gary Morgan, if anyone knows him. We acquired the Indie Gold project from a Chinese group. It was a big parcel. It wasn't easy. It took us 3 years to put that together. What else do we have? So the Farno McMahon JV, the Van Maurus option, the little square, see that blank square in the middle of the Van Maurus option, that's got some relevance, which we'll see shortly. Added some stuff that was available around us and just pegged those. And then recently, last year, we announced Novo Resources JV, and that puts the package to over 2,500 Ks. Most of the shear zone runs from the northeast down to the southwest. The yellow tenements at the end there, they're around the Wim Creek Hotel, and Taurana is down here somewhere, which is on our westernmost resource at the moment. So we've got 2,500 square kilometres. So Andy Beckwith, technical director and geologist, we were drilling Taurana, and you can see the comments there. He said this is a new style of mineralisation in the Pilbara. Everyone should go and look for this type of mineralisation. And this is, again, looking at Robin Bromby's dates. This is it's July 2018. I think it was a bit earlier than that. But anyway, he comes out and talks about the Taurana deposit. So that really is what kick-started our considering the intrusions. And of course, whilst they would have already been onto it, I did say to them, well, do we have intrusions on our own projects? So the guru is not always right. The little square blank that I just referred to, that's called Blue Moon. And Andy came up and said, okay, we've got a joint venture with Blue Moon, and this would have to be the best walk-up target that he has ever seen. And you can see one of the nuggets that the prospectors had taken off Blue Moon, highly crystalline, which means that it hasn't travelled very far, so there should be something there. So we drilled it, and I think, Phil, we found nothing, didn't we? But the prospectors are still on that ground. It's a small parcel, and they're still pulling off nuggets. And I'm not sure what the number is, but they're still doing pretty well out of it. So there's something somewhere there in that region. We do have it surrounded, but and we'll go back there in due course. Okay, so then our team of Phil, Andy, Alan Neeshaw, they all have very complementary skills in the geological section. Alan's perhaps a bit more big picture, so he was doing a review of all our previous drilling. So we've come up with multiple new targets in the intrusion section. These have been drilled before. You can look at some of the numbers, whether they're RAB or RC. Scooby, Shaggy, Antwerp, GMAS, less well known, Electronus and Hemi, there's the name, hadn't had any drilling, but we had identified these targets as early as the 2nd of July 2019. So There is an element that says that whilst I'm very positive about Ed and Bruce, we had already been onto these targets with the geological team that we had. So then these are air coal results that come out December 2019. And I know in another company that I'm involved in, we get excited, we get 0.2 grams a tonne. Look at those for air core results. 43 at 3.7, 25 at 2.7. We go into Christmas of 2019 pretty excited. But our shares are still 4.5 cents, market cap of 25 million perhaps, and you could have bought as many as you wanted. So anyway, we felt comfortable that maybe finally we were onto something. So this is our man Phil Tornatora. He gets up on the rigs as soon as we possibly can. And Phil is a man of few words, but when he says something, they're worth listening to. So we get back from site when we start the RC drilling, and try and think who was doing our RC drilling, Phil, at the time. Oh, it was Tim Topham at Top Drill. Okay, there you go, Tim. Give you a shout out. Anyway, Phil said these very prophetic words. And it is a bit of a eureka moment, I guess. And I've got Cassandra here who said that she would stand there if I had to finish up, and I'm not yet finished, so we'll see. I'll keep moving forward and she can drag me off. So then the RC results that we get, these become Brolga and Aquila, and the market finally starts to react. So that's in February of 2020. And then these are the next ones, and you can see, it's not there somewhere. We have an intersection somewhere of 93 metres at 3.3 grams. And I know we included the intersection, the complete intersection, and every metre was at 3 grams or thereabouts. It wasn't being carried by any high intersection. And we were clear that we were onto something quite special, and that was at Brolga, and Brolga is indeed our starter pit. And then to just complete, what a good year we're having, we get to employ Glenn Jardine. So this is like the triumvirate. So Glenn joins us, he's employed in March, he joins in May of 2020, and you get to talk to Glenn. He's done a very good, reliable job showing the world that we actually have a quality project. So I do try and keep the guys' feet on the ground. We raised 600 million, Argonaut, Canaccord, thanks guys. Glenn's done a terrific job. It is the quality of the project though, with good people behind it, and the money is attracted to that quality. Okay, Eagle, this was first drilled in 2006, 2007 by de Grey. You can see where their results finished just at the top of the intrusion. They don't go into the intrusion. Would they have recognised if they had? We don't really know. The other story about that apparently is that the rig we had to park up somewhere because we were doing something with the area that it was at. So Phil said, oh, well, let's put some holes in here and have a look. So anyway, and today Eagle is part of a 1.9 million ounce resource. And you can see where the initial holes in 2006-07 missed the mineralisation, and this is all part of the great good fortune that exploration can provide for you. So this I can finish here, Cassandra. So this is, I did a similar presentation to the Melbourne Mining Club, and I must admit I prefer the comparison to Melbourne because you've got the iconic MCG and you've probably got a bit more obvious scale with their tall buildings, etc. But this will give you the impression of, and look, everything in the Pilbara is big, and we are a long way away from being the largest mining project. But for a gold project, we are a substantial project, and this will give you a feel for the area of our mineralisation. I would say, note the gold that is outside the pits when you go through it. Note that Brolga starts off as the starter pit, and then it gets larger. Brolga pays back the project itself within 2 years, and it means that we are relatively capital insensitive. It's just an amazing ore body, although, funnily enough, it's no longer our biggest ore body. So anyway, this is a video, here we go. So that's the scale of the pits versus Perth, obviously. And then you get a better scale of the size of them. So The starter pit, there's a lot of gold outside of that starter pit, obviously. The purple stuff's the better stuff, most of you will know that. And then we go into the other 5 resources, our final pits. And I will note, Eagle and Duke on over to the west there, and you can see the large amount of gold sitting outside of those pits. And it's quite purpley, and that's where we're looking at the underground. Okay, this gives you an idea on the scale by way of length. There you go, length and breadth. And I will note, it would appear that we have developed a project that doesn't require waste or tailings dams, which is particularly clever of us. But if we put those over it, that increases the scale fairly significantly. So I can finish now. I might just also, which I should have done in the acknowledgement of country, because he's as old as a country, recognise John Jones AM that somebody kindly did earlier, because I saw John last night at Steve's and told him that I was speaking, which is why I think he's here, and he was railing against Dan Andrews having a higher honour than him. And I think that's probably correct. So well done, John, you made it. All right, I'm fairly sure that's it. Oh. There we go, we can do that. Is that all right? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon. Just a reminder, if you would like to submit a question, the code you need is 24DGM. An early submission from Cassandra too to you, Simon, about how that your Melbourne Demons fared last weekend against Collingwood, but I'm going to shield you from ridiculous, pointless questions like that. You can answer that in your own time. Thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on De Grey and Hemi in particular. We're going to get into more detail now with our panellists for this afternoon. So I think our first panellist's name and photo is up on the screen there. It's the Managing Director at De Grey, Glenn Jardine. Thank you, Glenn. We also have Courtney Morgan-Evans, who's the General Manager of People and Capability, Peter Holmes, the Project Director, and Neil Foster, the Chief Sustainability Officer. So as they make their way up, I'll head over to the chairs and take my Slido with me. Wondered what you were doing there. Throwing me off. Yeah, thank you very much again, Simon, for your comprehensive overview, particularly the Eureka moment. That was good. I'll start with you, Glenn. Such an exciting project. We've seen you've been on board now for about 4 years or so. Can you give us an update on where things are at right now and what's on your horizon for the next year or two?
Yeah, sure. So, Simon mentioned we finished up with DFS September last year. We raised 300 million off the back of that, and then earlier this year we raised another 600 million back in May. So where we're at the moment is getting the rest of the financing together for the project. So that involves debt predominantly, and we should have credit approved terms from a syndicate of banks later this month that we'll hopefully announce either later this month or early July, and we're looking at a debt piece there around $1 billion plus an overrun facility. So that's in front of us, and we're also into getting on with project-related activities, anything we can do ahead of getting environmental approvals. Peter can talk about what he's doing there, and then we're also going through an environmental approval process. So we put our submissions in around the middle of last year. We've got the levels of assessment that we thought we'd get, and now we're just going through the process of supplying additional information, resubmissions, and going through that. So that's where we're at.
What's your ideal timeline moving forward? All those approvals going through as expected?
Yeah, the ideal timeline is to start some, what they call Lill works this half, and then be in production in the second half of calendar 26.
Peter, you're the project manager. No pressure. Tell us about your previous experience. What have you been up to that's, I suppose, made you the best person around to deliver this project? Because it's pretty unique, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's a very unique project. When the headhunter said to me, or showed me that there's a position coming up, and I had a look at the description, and I've said it to people on our table. When you looked at the economics and what we'd found and the work that the geology team had done, the work that the project had done right from the get-go, from environmental permitting process, the team that's pulled together, it was really exciting seeing the amount of work that's been done at that level of a project. The PFS was still coming out. So really exciting economics. So my background, originally out of Perth in the Australia area, but spent a lot of time overseas working on larger projects with Placidome and Barrick. So I was involved for about 10 years overseeing all their large projects. And one of those projects was the Pilbara project in the Dominican Republic. So it had autoclave. So I was on that project, or part of that project, for 7 years. So I actually got it from updating the feasibility study to handing over to operations. So got to see and been involved through all that project. And so that project, from bringing skills and things of seeing that, if you want to just throw the photos up, or just to sort of compare. So the Pilbara project, for people who haven't seen it, was built in the late, between 2007 and 2013. And one of the major, it was a $3.6 billion project in the Dominican Republic. But one of the big things, and I got thrown to me, we're actually into construction, and I got a call from my boss and said, Peter, we need you to find how we're going to get these autoclaves from the port to the site. And I said, okay, that's good. So anyway, we went and did a lot of work, and I think what part of it's, and what we're trying to show into here is, and bring it to our project, is that the size of this project was substantial. There's a 780 tonne. We had to reinforce 27 bridges. We had to take them through towns, as you can see there. There's a lot of power was being taken from the grid without paying any money. We had to lift all this unlegal power and everything to get it through. So 120 kilometres, took 18 days to get there. A lot of stressful days to get through, and you can just sort of see there on the towns that we had to go through and getting it off the ship. Plus bridges like that to get it over. Wow. So it was a really good work, but it also showed from my perspective is, and Hatch is here in the thing, and Mammoet were the ones doing it, but it was a really integrated approach with the contractors. So expertise of Mammoet, expertise of Hatch in getting this, and a really good team effort from the community operations side and understanding how this is going to get this through. Because one of the areas that we did have, and as you can see there, the Dominican has about 48%, 50% Catholic. That is a town square. We had to remove some statues and there's a church right next to it. So I spent a week trying to deal with the Catholic Church going through to Rome to be able to move those. So again, this sort of shows what we did, and it was a fantastic project. It took 4 months, a lot of work to do it, but it really showed that integration of using the contractor expertise, the expertise of the company, and it's really setting that scenes of that one project and how we want to go forward. So that's what we want to set the scenes for here with us to work through, bring the expertise of the contractors and to be able to then work forward under the common goal. This is where we are, and this is using Iron Bridge, but again, a lot easier access in getting through. So yes, we are 85 kilometres, but we've got a lot easier roads and a lot easier access than getting through. This shows the pictures where sort of there's our Iron Bridge again, but moving material there, because logistics, especially at PV, the project was a lot of expense and a lot of work to be done, and so it's those building blocks of the small projects of doing stuff like that to get it going, to build up to the major project, and how we want to move forward with this one.
So this is an absolute walk in the park then?
No. It has its own challenges. One good thing about it is that it is a fantastic area. As I said, the Pilbara, you've got a deep sea port, you've got infrastructure there, power, we've got water, lots of water, which is great. And we are in a mining jurisdiction. One of the things about, and I'll go back to PV, and I worked in Africa and all over the world, but you had to bring people up to speed on even what a mine looked like, even what operations was. So we've got that, but we then need to take that, and then that becomes, we can worry about the other things that enables us to deliver the project without you worrying about that transportation and that, and then you may be taking your eye off other things and critical things. So I think from our perspective, those things go away, but it then gets you to concentrate to ensure you're meeting the timelines and we're delivering, as we said we're delivering.
Yeah. Courtney, let's talk about the workforce.
Sure.
Obviously the company's going through a massive transition from a relatively small player into a much, much bigger one. You're going to have to create the workforce to deliver the success that you're after. Tell us about the challenges for you in achieving that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of our biggest challenges is actually finding the workforce. So everyone knows we've been in a skills shortage in Australia for the last 4 years, and I think COVID has really shown us some of those challenges. But I think the thing with Hemi is we're not only building a project, we're actually building a company at the same time at De Grey. So that comes with many challenges, but also many opportunities as we grow. So I think we need to be cognizant of what the workforce want out there. The workforce are changing, their expectations are changing. So people are looking for greater flexibility. We've got AI, people are looking for a sustainable future. So we need to consider all that when we're building a workforce at Hemi and at De Grey and trying to find those people. I think the biggest challenges are looking, I guess, finding those key skills in the market. So we're talking about POCs, which hasn't been done in Australia before, which Peter's talking to the challenges of that. So finding those key people like Peter that we can get on board early to build up that skill set and build that team. We've also recently recruited a POCs engineer, so we're getting some of those key skills on board early so that we can really ramp up that team and de-risk the project moving forward.
I'll ask you more about pressure oxidation in a moment, Peter, so that's your early warning, but you knew that was coming anyway. The core values of the company though, I mean, I imagine from your point of view, probably easier to instill when you've got less people to work with. How do you carry those core values through a much, much bigger team and really instill the company's central values in those people? And what are those core values?
Yeah, sure. So we've got 6 core values at De Grey. It's the SPRI, so empathy, safety, personal responsibility, respect, integrity, and thinking differently. Got them? That's good. So in June 2022, we developed those values. So that's something that we thought we need to develop as a company, something that rings true to us. What are those values that our workforce really live and breathe, particularly up on site? So we did a workshop with the workforce where we got about 20 people together that were nominated either by themselves or by other people in the company to talk about what rings true to them and what do they want to see at De Grey and what are those values as we grow. So we're currently doing a refresher at the moment to see if they are still true as we move into that project execution phase. So obviously there's a lot of changes coming, bringing in a project team, people don't often like change. So we need to make sure that those values ring true to who we are and try and instill them. And I guess the best way that we do that is through the recruitment process. So making sure people are living and breathing those values through recruitment.
So I know that there are recruiters in the room today.
Yes.
If they want to go out and sell De Grey to their people on their books, what's the big sell?
Well, I think Hemi, the project itself, is the big sell. I mean, I think, everyone wants to work on Hemi. It's exciting. It's something new. It's gold in the Pilbara. It certainly brings its own challenges, but I think it's exciting to be able to get on board early and be able to build, for instance, a team, be able to build the systems and processes that you want as we build a company, which I think is really how we're engaging people. And to date, we haven't struggled, so it's been really good.
Yeah, very good. Neil, tell us about the engagement you've had with Aboriginal landowners today.
We're very fortunate, Tim, to have the support and a very respectful and productive relationship with the Garriara people that Simon alluded to earlier. We signed a mining agreement in December 2022 with the Garriara, and it is now the rubber's hitting the road in relation to putting in place measures and processes to realise opportunities that are mutually beneficial both for us in terms of the development and operation of Hemi, but also for the Garriara in terms of looking at where they are seeking employment opportunities or actually business development opportunities to be direct contractors to De Grey or subcontractors and suppliers to our contractors through construction or through operation. We can't take a mine of this size in this age through to production without the support and social licence, not just of traditional owners but of the wider community. So it's been at the forefront of our approach to ensure that we've been transparent through the whole environmental approvals process, ensuring that we are culturally sensitive in the design of our mine and how we operate. But delivery of outcomes that are mutually beneficial, that's what we've got to do. That's the challenge that we need to, both us and Gary together, work on to ensure that comes and that we show the modern mine can do this and deliver those outcomes.
And in terms of benefits to the local communities there, you're really prioritising employment opportunities?
Employment and business opportunities. So if people want a job in the Pilbara, they generally can go out tomorrow and get one. It's more, a lot of people want to work for themselves, set up their own businesses, so we want to listen to what the communities want. If we just chase employment targets and people want to set their own companies up, we're not going to make an employment target. So we listen first, what do those communities want, agree, and then set those targets that are actually going to deliver the outcomes that the communities will support and accept as we move into operate.
Yeah. Glenn, this massive processing plant that you're going to be building as well, potentially a massive asset, not just for the region, but the nation. Tell us more about that.
Well, I was feeling a lot more comfortable about it being split in that. Look, it's really interesting, and Simon's talked about the quality of the asset, and what excites me apart from the buzz you get from people working for you is what's still to come. And as everyone in the room knows, you don't find an asset that's got 13 million ounces in it, and that's all there is. So on the tenement package itself, there will be more discovered, there'll be more production, but there's a lot of deposits within Western Australia and overseas that are refractory in nature or semi-refractory like Hemi, and they don't have anywhere for those deposits to be treated. So, unusually for the Pilbara, there's a potential that ore and or concentrates will be transported into the Pilbara. Some of those could come through the port of Port Hedland, and that Hemi processing plant could expand, particularly at the back end, processing gold concentrates from elsewhere in Australia and worldwide.
So it could unlock deposits far and wide.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Peter, I've done a bit of a deep dive on pressure oxidation. I'm not sure I'm there yet. I'll be honest. So please, can you explain what it is and why it is so necessary at this project, and some of the challenges with making it happen here in Australia? Because my understanding is we've not had it before as a processing type.
I'll start the back of that. So the thing of Hemi is the scalability to do it, to bring pressure oxidation. When you look at all of us in the gold fields and that, those mines, we had those 5-year mine lives and we got it done, and I always say it's that min-proc design mine that we come out, we had, it was basically done in the 70s and things in the 80s, and we put them in, and we wanted to get up in operation, get gold out, and it was only on small things. The scale of this project enables us to say, well, a lot of it is refractory or semi-refractory ore, so we had to come up with a process of how you do that. There was a trade-off studies done and looked at BIOX and all the other options. But the scale of this, and when you look at pressure oxidation, Australia's just because I think of the circumstances and where we've been, haven't put it in. New Zealand have had it operating down there for like 20 odd years. I was part of putting it in Pilbara in the late 80s. You got Lill, and then you got all over the world, the PV. So there's about 19 of them operating around the world. If you read some of the statistics, 1/3 of the gold going forward now is probably going to refractory gold, because we have been mining out the oxide materials and stuff. So when we've done all the studies and we worked closely with Wood and everything to go through that and look at what those options was, the pressure oxidation or POX gives us the better recoveries and also helps with other parts of dealing with some materials. So from that point it becomes fine. It's just when we found here that there's a lot of questions. Well, there's issues with pressure oxidation. I think people here think of Murrin and what's happened there, and in a different light of not using it with gold, it's more on the lateric nickel. So I think there's questions as well. It hasn't been put in here. Why hasn't it been put in here? Why do you think you guys can do it better? But there's a number of people who've experienced it. I've, in the last 15 odd years, been around pressure oxidation. It's how you set up the design and how we work through that and make sure we get the designs right. We're doing a lot of work on lessons. We've got a lot of input from people, but not just from a design construction side, but how does operations what are the issues doing, and ensuring that we've designed what we can out of that, and then how do we build those maintenance processes, because it's all around maintenance really, and that bringing that down and making sure that's all done, and setting those systems up and processes. And so we've been spending a lot of time. We've gone and spoke through my connections at Barrick. We've gone and looked at those, the 10 years of PV, gone through, and they've been very much to show us what's happened, how they've had all the problems that they've had. And we've worked around with McRae's and all those companies to understand how does it all work, and we're ensuring that coming back to working through the design, and then in our operational readiness, that we've got the people in place and that time for training and learning. So when we actually start operating that mine, we've got all that set up. And people say a lot of time, with operational readiness, but it's really important, and the people on our project have been involved with that. So ensuring that we've got the people in place, the maintenance systems, and the design to operate, and pressure oxidation. I mean, New Guinea was operating since the 1980s, and well, I remember up there, we could teach them how to wear clothes to get them to start work, let alone moving there forward. So, and it's been operating safely and things. So it's, again, putting the systems and processes in place to be able to manage that.
Yep. Thank you. I feel much more knowledgeable right now. Thank you very much. Courtney, I asked you before about some of the core values that you want to instill in your workforce. Tell me about in terms of the employment and building the workforce. Your proximity to Port Hedland's been made note of, about 85 odd k's, which is, in Pilbara terms, is pretty close. That workforce, are you going to be basing them on site, or do you anticipate there'll be a large Dido contingent rather than FIFO? How is that balance going to be there?
Yeah, so we've definitely got a big workforce to build. So currently we've got about 135 people at De Grey, I believe. And in the next 12 to 18 months, we're looking to at least double that.
Yep.
With contracting partners, we've got about 300. And our peak construction workforce is going to hit about 900 people. So we've got a lot of people to find and to bring to the Pilbara. We definitely will be looking at Dido and local opportunity options, as Neil spoke to before. But obviously we're not going to find that many people available in the Pilbara. There's enough competition up there as it is. So definitely we'll have a FIFO workforce as well. And with safety being one of our core values, 85 kilometres seems fairly close in the Pilbara, but you're still driving an hour and a half either way. So definitely we'll be basing people on site at our location.
Yeah. Neil, just as there are recruiters in the room, there's probably some potential contractors in the room as well that might be wondering, how do I get on board with this project? What would your advice be to them?
Certainly be aware of ICN, and a lot of the big tender packages are being released through that, be it not just for the bigger contractors, but also potential subcontractors for packages. So that's really the platform we're seeking to use to bring and connect up the supply chain through construction, so encourage that. We also have suppliers register through the website, QR code for the smaller contractors. That is used directly by De Grey in its direct procurement, and actively we seek to engage with those that are registered. But also, I think Peter's talked to, and can talk more in the project, bring the smarts. Obviously there's a huge ESG focus on any new mine, so we will be looking to and reliant on our contractors to support our intentions in that space.
Yep.
So it's, jump on board, get engaged, bring, the smarts in all areas, so we can show how a new mine gets built and operated well.
Yep. A few questions flying in from the audience, so I might just throw a few of those to you now. This seems like a fairly obvious one, but perhaps for you, Glenn, when will you actually start mining?
Oh, that's a good question. That'll be in calendar 25, so it'll be next year.
Okay.
We've got a bit of work to do first, but we have to do some pre-stripping. So that pre-strip will be used to do some construction, including the tunnels then. And then we'll get stuck into mining. I think we'll get into ore mining about 3 months ahead of when it needs to go into the plan.
Yeah, okay. Peter, you might be best placed to answer this one. Again, submitted anonymously. I notice you have a lot of pits. Why not start with having just one, e.g., and then expanded it, e.g. Kalgoorlie Super Pit?
We do. So the Brolga starter pit, so that didn't have the mine sequence up on it today, but the Brolga starter pit, which is, fantastic, from an ore body perspective, but that's our first area of start, and then we expand out from that. And basically, that whole pit timeline's over 12 years. So we sort of start on the west.
Yep.
Start on the east side and move to the west. So yeah,
Okay.
it is. The mine sequence enables, because of the transporter cover, so we'll start some of the areas to get that transporter cover down, so we can match and maintain the production profile that we need.
Yep. This might be a question for Simon, or perhaps Glenn, you can take charge on this one. You mentioned Gold Road's involvement during your talk. Simon, a question about why they didn't exercise their full option recently to maintain a 19.9% stake. Might be a question that Gold Road might be the best place to answer.
Well, I think what they did was they invested on a pro rata basis,
Yep.
which was strong support for us, and also was demonstrated with the But if you wanted to go any further on that question, we first directed to Gold Road.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
But Gold Road have been very supportive
Yep.
of all our capital raisings since they came into shareholders, and also very supportive of the board and management. That'd be great.
Yep. A question about the technology that you're going to be using, introducing into your flow sheet to ensure that Hemi will be remembered for right reasons, contributing to a sustainable mining future. That might be one perhaps for you, Neil, possibly you, Peter?
I think from my side of things, we've got a clear decarbonisation plan associated with the mine.
Yep.
We need to execute that. Again, contractors and partners will be required in terms of bringing smarts to it, but we have a clear intention in terms of highly efficient and decarbonised mining ultimately, and we support the wider mining industry's attempts as well as government commitments to decarbonisation and global goal of net zero. So I think the technology has a level of efficiency intrinsic compared to a lot of other producers, plus ore and the like, but Peter, probably you can talk to that.
On the mining side and processing side, we don't have, because these are massive ore bodies and the sulphide mineralisation, we're pretty much taking a whole lot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't leave a lot of waste rock that has what would be described as acid potential. The little that there is will be encapsulated. And then the pressure oxidation process oxidises the sulphide that's in the ore. So you're not sending out sulphides to the carbon dam. That turns into an iron oxide, which is a stable oxide. And so you also don't have leaching of any metals from that stable oxide. It's basically a scorodite. So yeah, the technology actually cleans up a few problems that would otherwise exist.
Yep. So the questions are bouncing around here as people endorse different ones. What's the diversity and inclusion strategy for De Grey, and how has it changed following the Hemi discovery? Has it changed?
We've definitely been focusing on diversity. So I think in the last couple of years, for instance, our female diversity has increased to 36%. So we've been really focusing on increasing our diversity, and it's about providing opportunity at De Grey. So rather than actually focusing on those stats and putting measures in place, it's more actually promoting a diverse workforce that's inclusive, that provides a safe environment where everyone feels comfortable, and it brings different thoughts, which then bring things like innovation.
Yep. Couple more. Question about powering the project. How are you going to do that? Are you going to go for a grid connection? Peter, is that a Peter question?
Yeah.
We all know the answer.
Yeah, no, so we've been working over the last, I think the project's been working before even I started, looking at what's the best way of doing power out there, and we are looking at, it'll be a grid connection. We are working with some power providers to go down probably a power purchase agreement fine. But we've also made sure we've kept options of if we do need to do it site as well. So we have kept that, but we're progressing at PPA, and we should have that probably sorted by the middle of the year in quarter 3.
Yeah, it affords us the opportunity to support broader, larger scale renewable energy schemes in the Pilbara, and the electrification of the Pilbara and the growing expanse of network connection. We're able to support that growth through those power partners as opposed to self-develop. So, we've got a number of options, but I think, again, we're unlocking a number of different aspects
Yeah.
for that region, and power is one of those.
Yeah. Simon, I feel your pain. I'm getting the wind up from Sandra. She's making like cutting throat noises and movements over there and everything. So I get the message, Cass. We're out of time, folks. So would you please thank our panellists here today, Glenn, Neil, Courtney and Peter. Thank you for your questions too, and apologies for not getting through all of them. Stay where you are, guys. I'm just going to invite Danny up just for a moment for a more official vote of thanks, as she will now be doing in her new role as El Presidente. You've got to call this out.
Thank you very much, everybody. Obviously, this is my first time doing this, so I have the L plates on. Thank you, Tim, and thank you to everyone from De Grey. Fabulous discussion, and clearly that is because so many of us are in the room, so thank you.
Thank you, Raj.